Hey, everybody, welcome to Black Lotus Live, where we talk about all things strange and unusual. And tonight we're going to be talking about places we'd like to visit that are supposedly haunted. And excuse me. Then we're also going to be talking about our own experiences. And later on, I'm going to invite people on from the chat room who would like to talk about their own experiences. So, but before we get into it, I want to welcome Wild Trees back. He had a nasty bout with COVID, and he's doing a lot better now.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the messages I received from you guys and from everybody in the group. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Like I said, my daughter just got over it, and she had it for, I think, 2.5 weeks, something like that. And she said she was absolutely miserable. This COVID stuff is awful. But so I want to start before we get into the whole ghost thing. I want to start by something that I found out about Meatloaf, the singer Meatloaf, who just recently passed. And I didn't know this, but he was very into the paranormal. And in fact, next month he was scheduled to be on some haunt investigative show. I can't remember which one. Ghost Hunters, I think, maybe. But yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was into the paranormal. And I guess he's had a lot of paranormal experiences. But so yeah, let's jump into this. I'd like to welcome everybody who's here. Thanks a lot for showing up, and it's good to see you. I think I'll start with one place that I would really like to visit. And it's a place called Fox Ridge Park here in Las Vegas. And it's actually in Henderson, which is right next door. And I was watching a video about this today, and I was driving out that way a while back, and I got a flat tire. And so I pulled over to the side next to this park, and I didn't realize I was at Fox Ridge Park. And so, and I knew about this legend, this haunting there. Had I known, because I had to wait so long for the tow truck, I would have gone into the playground to see what I could see. But anyway, so apparently a drunk driver hit a little boy there. And now people have reported that in the playground at this park, a swing will swing wildly, like somebody's on the swing. You can actually see the chains bending as though they're being pulled back. And so it's not like a gentle sway in the breeze or anything like that, and evidently, if you do see a ghost apparition of this little boy, you shouldn't approach it, because I don't know how scary this would be, but his eyes glow red when he sees you, and apparently scares the crap out of you. But yeah, I would love to go back there and visit that place, and bring a camera and just see what I can see there, But and apparently there is also a woman in white, of course, who haunts the park as well. But but I got to say, Vegas is filled with haunts.
Oh yeah,
like the Strip. The Strip. It seems everywhere is haunted on the Strip. There's been so many bad things that have occurred there in the hotels and casinos that, I would imagine it would be hard to get away from it. But so I don't think that Ralph and I would have to travel very far to investigate something. We just never have. I'm not sure why. But
where I'd really like to investigate? Disneyland.
Yeah. There's a lot of hauntings.
So many things that happen at Disneyland that are haunted and stuff like that. I always gone there for fun, but to go there and actually go investigating would be fun.
Can you tell us? I know there's been a lot of deaths that have happened there, but I'm not sure. I hadn't heard of any hauntings associated with those deaths. Can you
One
tell
of the
me
most
about
famous ones is in what used to be America Sings,
Mhm.
because a woman got crushed in there in between the walls during a show accidentally, and supposedly you can hear her screaming still.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I remember when that happened back in the 70s.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah.
There's also the one that haunts the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I think they call him George. He was a former worker there who had died. And so every morning people go in there and they say hello to George. And then at night they say goodnight, George. And if you don't do that, the ride's going to malfunction. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They also have one on Space Mountain.
Oh yeah,
That has
he
been-
he rides with customers. They catch him on cam riding with the guests.
Yeah, he's been caught on CCTV. Yeah. But
Interesting.
I don't want to spend the money on Disneyland just to go do that. 'Cause, damn. Can't believe
Well,
the
because we're
price.
investigating, we get in for free, of course.
Oh,
Well,
We're doing
You know,
our
it's-
service to them.
it's interesting because I've heard that movie theaters are also haunted sometimes. Actually, I worked in a movie theater, and one of the workers said he saw a really weird ghost. He said it was basically like a white sheet hanging in the empty theater, and it was just there, like a cloudy white sheet, and it went through the wall. So I don't know if that's a ghost, but I think I've read somewhere, or maybe it's my own idea too, that an area like a movie theater or an amusement park are really emotionally charged areas, because literally people go there and they have high emotions. They're either crying or screaming. If it's a movie theater, crying, screaming, laughing. If you're at an amusement park, you're screaming, you're laughing, and perhaps that has something to do with the hauntings, the amount of energy and the amount of people that are there.
it could attract
Constantly.
ghosts. I would imagine so. Yeah. How about you, Kim?
I'd like to go to the Myrtles,
Okay.
the
is the
Myrtles
Myrtles?
Plantation.
Mhm.
It's a hotel. It's a house, actually. It was a plantation, and it's still being run as a bed and breakfast today. But it's highly haunted by different spirits. One of I believe it was a cook or a slave that was there. She actually poisoned a family, and then the father is heard walking up the steps. There's a lot of activity there. I actually read the book, and I actually called to talk to the owner, and it's changed hands a few times, but they at first they want to tell you that it's not haunted, but that's exactly what they advertise for the as far as about the bed and breakfast, that it is haunted, and they separate you into certain rooms, because I guess all the rooms have activities too.
Mhm.
As
They
well
also
as
have
I like to go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to mention they also have a gift shop there that attracts ghost hunters.
Sure.
I mean, because
I-
all the merchandise is about the hauntings.
Right. Exactly. They have a mirror there that supposedly there's an image that can be seen. I think it's the 13th step. You could hear at night when the father come home. He got to the 13th step and stopped. There's just a lot of things that goes on there. I thought Salem, Massachusetts would be another one.
Yeah.
Pretty sure there's a lot of things going on there.
In Salem?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And again, it may not be just from residual hauntings in Salem. I think it just attracts because of the nature of the history of the place. It attracts ghostly
Right.
activity, I think. So,
And that's what attracts me to it, is the history of it on top of everything else. I think it's really sad, everything that did go on. My daughter and her family is going to take a trip up there in June, actually.
really.
Oh,
Yeah, I'd love to visit that place. I can't remember her name, but I had a phone interview with she's known as the mayor of which city, and she's a witch. And God, if I can, it's been years since I interviewed her. I can't remember her name, but she was a very nice woman and very well versed in the history of Salem. But
I'm
yeah,
pretty sure a lot of witches live up there.
oh yeah. I love the the arm patches and the badges that the police wear there. It has a witch flying on a broom
Oh, wow.
depicted
really?
on it. Yeah,
How cool is that?
but
How about you, Wild?
Yeah. So, okay. So I want to say first that I remember, Damien, you had asked me one time a really interesting question, which was because I've been in so many. I'm a field biologist, so I've been to like Wyoming, Montana, Alaska, Colorado, Arkansas, Texas. I probably missed a couple, but you asked me, have I ever seen anything paranormal while I'm out working? That was a good question, and I haven't. And I think the reason is because when I go there, I am hyper focused on like one task, which is probably collecting an animal, a plant or something. And I usually have a research assistant, so I'm hyper focused on the safety of myself and my research assistant. And so I guess I'm not really, I really enjoy myself, but I'm not really taking in everything the way I would be if I was just enjoying myself on a hike. And because when I go there, I usually have a purpose, I usually have some funding, there's a lot of responsibilities. I really just focus on that one specific thing, which is probably taking pictures, using some machines to get coordinates or whatever. So unless something presents itself to me, like wants me to see it right in my face, I probably won't see it. and I think that's why I haven't seen anything. But I will say that before I talk about some hot spots I want to visit, I want to talk about the opposite of a hot spot. So a hot spot, what I mean by that is an area where consistent paranormal activity has been reported and where you might want to go to experience the paranormal. Well, I think there's the opposite, which is a cold spot. It's an area with almost no paranormal activity, where if you go, you're more likely not to have any paranormal activity. And so one of those areas is in Colorado. It's this little town called Gothic. It's an abandoned mining town in the mountains. I think it's up at like 7,000 feet above elevation. But it's a Rocky Mountain Biological Laboratory. It's been running since the 70s. A bunch of biologists go there. And I'm good friends with the director. So, I'm friendly with him. I'm open with him. So I was having dinner with him at the station. And I asked him, are there any legends in this area about Bigfoot, UFOs, or anything? You got to remember, scientists are constantly in this area every year, all the time. Well, except in the winter. In the winter, there's a skeleton crew because it's all snowed in, but the rest of the year. So you would expect if there was a Bigfoot or if there was a cryptid or if there was a UFO, it would be seen and reported because there's so many people. But he told me, he says, there's nothing there, nothing. And I do believe him. And I started thinking, why is there nothing here? This is perfect Bigfoot area. So I think because there are so many scientists there, they are either avoid the area, whatever's there, paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, whatever. They either avoid the area or they purposely try to hide from everybody. Because it's almost like, let's say you're a criminal and you're going in a neighborhood and you're going near a police station. Basically, you're a criminal, you're going near a police station. There's a police station there. It's full of police. You don't want to be found out. So you're either going to avoid that area or you're going to try to stay away from the police. So I think because there's so many scientists in that area, if there's intelligent paranormal activity there, like a Bigfoot, for instance, or like UFOs or aliens, wherever they're from, I think they may know that there's police there. There's paranormal police, which are scientists. And they don't want to be found out for whatever reason, so they avoid that area. So I thought that was interesting.
do you think that that's because they know that they have technical equipment there that could detect them?
Yeah, yeah. There's yes, because I myself was carrying technical equipment, very technical equipment. There's sensors set up everywhere, constantly monitoring. I mean, the area is just constantly under surveillance. Not for
Maybe
paranormal
that's
stuff.
why.
Yeah, that I think so. Yes,
The
I think that's okay.
frequencies they may be able to pick up and detect a little bit better.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know if that's helpful information. I mean, if you're trying to avoid the paranormal for whatever reason, perhaps you should go to one of these areas because I don't think you're going to find much paranormal activity in those areas. And then I guess as far as where I would want to go, I have found a correlation with nature preserves and paranormal activity. So there's one area that I go to in Texas called the Texas Big Thicket. And this area has reports of Bigfoot going back a long time. It's got what they call it a skunk ape. So it's their own variety. It's a smaller ape creature. It's not like the big northwestern patty type of Bigfoot. They're usually smaller because this is like a swampy area, Texas swampy type of area. And
Florida has the same thing.
Yeah, very similar to Florida.
Yeah.
And there's UFOs that have been sighting there. There's landed UFOs. People have seen the craft land. There's orbs of light. And what was very interesting is that I was doing my own analysis on biodiversity. It doesn't have anything to do with paranormal, but I got all my data of all the animals I had collected, and I ran it through a program. The program will tell me which area of this preserve, it's a natural area, very big area. It'll take you, like if you're driving really fast, it might take you like 3 hours to go from one end to the other. Very big area. So I run the software and I'm like, I want to know what the most biodiverse area. By biodiverse, I mean which area has the most different types of animals in it. And so I found the area. So that area, it's called Big Sandy unit, but there's some interesting things about this area. Number one, I found a new species in that area. So that kind of supports the idea that there's a lot of different animals. Number two, there was a recent Bigfoot sighting in this area as well. It was done in the 2000s, I think early 2000s, 2003. So I'm seeing a correlation between, lots of paranormal activity such as cryptids and high biodiversity. So that being said, I would love to go to like one of the most biodiverse areas in the world, which is the Amazon River Basin, which is in northern South America. It takes part of Brazil, part of Peru. It's a very large area. I would love to go there because I think that area is a paranormal hotspot. I mean, there were UFOs that have been sighted along the Amazon River. There was this one UFO flap that was investigated by Jacques Vallée. And these UFOs were actually kind of sinister. So they showed up in this little town on the side of the Amazon River. And they would actually, the people said they would shoot a laser at them. And it felt like the laser was sucking their blood away from them. So they called them chupa chupas. Chupa chupa, literally in Spanish, it means suck. So they call these UFOs bloodsuckers, basically. Some people did die because of these UFOs. And the South American government also went to study them. So I think the Amazon River is where I would want to go. I think if I start digging and purposely asking people and purposely looking for paranormal activity, I think I would find it in the Amazon River Basin.
Interesting.
So let's talk a little bit about our own paranormal experiences, our own ghost sightings. I think I'll start with this. I used to live in Minnesota, in Bloomington, Minnesota, and I lived with my then fiance in an apartment. This apartment was kind of weird. It was actually a big house that was separated into 3 individual apartments. There were 2 upstairs and 1 downstairs. That they called a garden level apartment, but really it was just a refurbished basement. And that's where we lived. And I moved in with her, and I want to say about a week later, we were sitting in the living room and we were watching television, and I kept hearing this scratching noise coming from our coat closet that was right next to the front door. And I said to Rachel, I said, what is that? She said, what? And I said, you don't hear that scratching noise? And she goes, oh, coming from the closet, right? And I said, yeah. And I'm surprised she didn't hear it. She says, yeah, that's a little boy that lives in the closet. I said, what? She says, yeah, we have a ghost of a little boy that's in that closet. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Why didn't you tell me this before I moved in with you? And she's like, well, sorry, but yeah, it's there. And then I kept hearing it. And so I got up, and every time I got close to the door, it would stop. And I'm like, I think that may be a squirrel or a mouse or something. Sure. And so I opened up the door, and there inside the closet, there was like a little cubby closet as well for like extra storage, and it had a door on it, and it was wooden. And so I got near it, and I really listened to back behind that closet door, and I opened it up, and there's nothing there. And so I'm like, all right. So I closed the little closet and then closed the door to the coat closet. And I went to go back to sit down. And as soon as I went to sit down, I'm hearing this again. And then it eventually stopped. Well, other things occurred in this place. I was vacuuming out of one of the bedrooms into the hallway, and I felt a hand on my shoulder. And I turned around just in time to see this black mist just dissipate. That freaked me out a little bit. And what else? Oh, so in this refurbished basement, that's where the community laundry machines were. And it was in a part of the basement that wasn't refurbished. And so you could still see the beams on the ceiling and all that. And the place was dimly lit, so it was kind of creepy being in there to begin with. And one day I was in there and I was putting clothes in the dryer. And just as I was about to start the thing, I caught out of the corner of my eye this dark figure that seemed to be hanging from the ceiling. And I thought, oh my God. And it was just there for a split second. And so that creeped me out. I've lived in a lot of places that were haunted, but none of them really scared me like this place did. One evening, Rachel and I came home and we went downstairs to our front door, and we opened up the door, and in that coat closet, she had one of those handheld games called You Don't Know Jack. Do you remember that game?
Yes.
And you don't remember that? You don't know Jack. Anyway, so it was battery operated, and it was in the coat closet. And as soon as we opened the door to go inside, the little game did that. It said, you don't know Jack. I'm like, is this thing malfunctioning? She goes, no, there's no batteries in it. I took the batteries out because I needed them for the remote, for the TV. And I'm like, I think you may be mistaken. So I got in there, opened up the compartment, no batteries. So I don't know how you would explain that, but yeah, there was a lot of creepy stuff that happened at that place. And so eventually I looked into it, and apparently back in the 70s, I think it was a site of a double murder suicide wherein the father killed the wife and his son and then hung himself in the basement.
Oh.
Yeah. And apparently they found the body of the little boy in that coat closet back behind that cubby hole.
Wow.
And so,
wow.
I was so glad to move away from that place. I mean, the place just gave, I mean, the place still gives me chills. And like I said, I mean, I've lived in a lot of haunted places, but they never really bothered me like this one did. And I think it's because of the nature of the crime that happened that it was so bad,
Could be.
you know. So, Ralph, how about you?
Oh, geez, which one you want to hear about? I've lived in a lot of haunted places too. When I lived in Cucamonga, we had a bedroom on each end of the motorhome. And I had a roommate living with me. And I'd hear him walking up in the middle of the night, walking up and down the hallways. And I was like, what is this guy doing in the middle of the night? Well, one day he actually asked me what was I doing in the middle of the night because he kept hearing walking up and down the hallways. Come to find out, it was neither of us were walking up and down the hallways. It was probably the person who used to live there because neither of us were getting out of our rooms. So, yeah, that was kind of creepy to find out.
Yeah. Tell them the story about the moose in the bathroom.
Oh, okay. That was when I lived in Claremont. Yeah, I was going in to take a shower, and it was one of those where it's a long room with the two sinks and then the shower. Well, I was getting ready to go, and I almost knocked the moose. Tells you how long ago this was. Off the counter. And so I pushed it back against the mirror and went in and took my shower. And as I was showering, all of a sudden this moose came flying across and hit the wall right where I was showering. Oh. And I have no idea if, nothing else ever happened like that there, but other things happened at that house, but nothing like that. So yeah, that was kind of freaky. Things in the house like I would disappear. I had a ring that disappeared and found it in the middle of the living room, which there's no way it could have been in there it had been missing for so long. The floor has been vacuumed and everybody's been walking back and forth, and all of a sudden it just shows up in the middle of the living room.
That house was creepy, man.
Yeah.
That house was just haunted.
Yeah.
Haunted big time.
And it's the lady in white. She was a lady in white that walked around there. How come it is always a lady in white?
I don't know. But yeah, there was a lot of creeppy stuff. He used to have a dummy head.
Oh, geez, yeah. I didn't even think of that one.
Ventriloquist dummy head. And it was just the head, and he had it mounted on a pylon, like a traffic pylon in his room. And this thing would turn its head on its own.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that was I didn't like that thing. I mean, I remember going in there once and turning its face to the wall. And Ralph and I were just sitting on his bed, just chatting. And I looked back at the thing and it had turned around again. It was looking directly at us. But yeah,
a lot of people saw that happen.
That was just But how about you, Kim? What kind of ghostly experiences have you had?
Well, I just wrote about one one day this week about the telephone. Being a friend had moved into a house out in the country about 10, 11 years ago. And when I was doing the walkthrough, I noticed it had one of the old style wall phones.
Right.
And I noticed that the wires were cut. And I even asked the landlady that was taking us through, I says, is this disconnected? And she goes, yeah, it doesn't work. I said, cool. And so, but for some reason, I just knew. And there was a lot of things that went on in that house, I'll tell you. I never went through so many fuses because they had the old time fuses, and it hated my friend that was there with me, and they just did everything to mess with him. But I have a library, and at that time I had over 1,300 books, and I was sitting in the middle of the floor going through my books, and it wasn't uncommon for me to catch something out of the corner of my eye, like one of the books moving or pages opening and things like that. But I was sitting there, you know, going through the selection of books that I had, and all of a sudden, that phone rings on the wall. And I'm going, this thing I'm holding, I could see the wire that's cut from the phone. It's still there. But this phone rang like 3 times. And I said, okay, fuck it, I'll
did you
pick
answer
it? I did.
You did?
And yeah, I did. I picked up the phone and I said, hello. There was nothing on the other end. I said 3 times and there was nothing. And I was not surprised that the phone would ring though. I always had an inkling that it would. And
Did
you
this
could
happen
see,
more than once?
No, it only happened once, but I knew that it would. I could just feel it because there was the mother had just died like a year prior, and the brother had died, and I think he was in the house as well when he died. So there was a lot of residual energy in that house. I never felt comfortable taking a bath or a shower in there because I always felt like I was being watched. Always. Bedroom was no different. You could just feel like eyes on you. And it was not uncommon for you to hear your name being called in the middle of the night and there's nobody standing there. Either there or there you got a dark spirit standing, a dark figure standing in front of you. But yeah, there was all kinds of stuff that went on there. Dishes would move across the table. There's a lot. And I communicated, and they didn't mind me being there, but they did not like him. And I think that more had a lot to do with the fact that he drank a lot. And that's exactly what the son died from. Was,
right.
The liver issue.
I've noticed that about a lot of hauntings that, if there's multiple people living in the place, ghosts play favorites with people, and there are some, and then the others, they're just like despised by the ghosts for one reason or another.
My daughter even had like one of those EMP meters or whatever, where the spirit, like a spirit box almost. And it even would say, when she would turn it on, when she would come over, they would even say he needs to leave drunk. Yeah. Yeah. And then I had a Christmas, like a doll, but it wasn't a doll. It was just like a cardboard cone, and it had like a Santa Claus made around it. But there was nothing really anything to it. And one night we were watching TV, and all of a sudden we heard Christmas music that you never heard before. It was a type that, it's not like a regular Christmas carol that you can identify, but it was regular. It sounded Christmassy, and it was, something you never heard. And he told me to turn it off. I says, that thing it has nothing. And he got so freaked out. I actually enjoyed it. I thought that was funny as hell. But I mean, because it was that time of year, and they had the capability of doing that. I see we got someone in the chat room.
Yeah, Kelly Lewis says, my daughter was telling me that her and her husband were having relations, and something put its hand on her forehead. That's invasive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good God. How about you, Wild? You ever have any ghostly experiences?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's kind of leads into what was just posted in the chat room. So it seems like there are some human-like things that are human-like, but probably not human, that like to, when we're in our houses or especially in our bedroom, they like to touch us. What's the name of the guy we had? I know his first name is Mike and his last name starts with an R, but he did an episode
Rick Sucker. He's into shadow people.
So I remember Mike Ricksucker told a story that when he was a child, he was in bed and a shadow person came up and would just hug him while he was laying down. And we just had a story in the chat room about someone in bed and they had a hand on their forehead. And I've read stories where people are in bed, and a lot of times this is very common. Something will hold their head and they'll slam their head on a wall or something hard. And I've also heard from women that a lot of times they are sexually molested by a shadow entity. So sometimes these seem to be very bad touches. Sometimes they're kind of benign, like a hug, but I think they're always unwanted. I don't think anybody wants to be touched by an invisible person or whatever. But I had my own encounter like this. I was like 10 years old, and I just felt like a hand, like an invisible hand. It felt like a human hand. It didn't feel like an animal hand. It didn't feel like a force. It just felt like a human hand was grabbing my wrist, and they were trying to stop me from closing a door. And I resisted. I felt it, and I looked down, and I saw that there was nobody there, but I resisted, and I still closed the door anyway. But by closing the door, it caused me to hurt my mother because her fingers were like in the door, actually. And so her finger got smushed on accident.
Oh.
And she had to go to the emergency room. So in that case, that seems to me that seems like a good touch, because it looks like this thing was watching, and this thing was like, if this boy closes the door, he's going to cause an accident. So it looks like this thing, to me, it feels like this thing was trying to prevent that from happening. That is my interpretation of the event. But once again, it was very real. It was very physical, but it was invisible. There was nobody there. So I don't even know if you would call that a ghost. I mean, I think it was invisible, it was physical, and it felt like a human hand. So I kind of categorize that as a ghost.
Yeah.
Type.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Bringing up ghosts that end up in the bedroom kind of reminds me of the incubus and succubus.
Right.
And
I wouldn't mind having a hot one.
Kim, without mentioning any names, you have a friend of yours who is having issues with an incubus. You want to tell a little bit about that and why she invited it back after she got rid of it?
Well, it just happened. I feel like because she has been divorced and apparently lonely and things like that, things start going through people's minds, and lustfulness, for lack of a better word. And she started feeling like she was being touched, and then after a period of time, there was the feeling of having sex, of it being, having sex with it, and she allowed it to take control and to actually be more forceful. And then she got scared, and then she told it to go away. Well, it went away, but she also said it was the best sex she ever had in her life, even in the physical sense.
Of course.
So what does she do? Let's call upon this thing again. And same thing happened. It came back, and it's more demanding of her attention, where now it's not just with her at home in bed, it's attached to her now, going to work with her, touching her at work at inappropriate times, causing her to kind of, let's say, react in front of her coworkers that are taking
God.
notice of this now. Yeah.
Oh.
So, and now she just can't get rid of it because now it's a part of her. But now she doesn't know what to do, and she can't get away from it.
Well, inviting
But
it
now
back, that's just playing with fire.
Sure. And I told her that. I told her repeatedly about that. And she did this several times. This is the bad part. She's done it several times, and each time it comes back stronger.
More
Because
aggressive.
the more you give into it, the stronger it becomes.
Right.
Because it's pulling in your energy, it's feeding off of her energy. And then I have a friend of mine that has a male friend that has a succubus. He also invited that and doesn't want to get rid of it, though, for obvious reasons.
Well, how did he? Okay, I have a lot of questions. So it sounds like I've had stories of women who have been molested by something, just like your friend was, but they just don't want it, and it goes away and it stays away. But it sounds like perhaps you could start getting a succubus incubus thing happening if suddenly you're approached by this, but then you go with it. And that seems to be how perhaps that evolves.
It feeds off your thoughts, as because your mind manifests things. And the more that you manifest and think about it and allow it to occur, the more stronger that it becomes.
Right.
And it could turn into something completely physical, a physical being.
How did it start with your male friend?
I'm guessing
You looking for tips?
Oh, you got me, Damien. I cannot hide anything from you.
I think it's just, again, it goes with the mind, the creativity of the mind, the want, the desire, the lust, the sexual need.
Well, was he in a similar?
It could be
because you said your female friend was
he's single too.
Was in a vulnerable place, so he was also in a vulnerable place. Is that correct? And then
a vulnerable position in his life, I say.
Okay, I got you. Interesting.
But it doesn't have to be. It could be at a very lonely, low point, to where you're vulnerable, and then there's certain energies that will take up on that. Your low-level entities will do the same thing.
Okay, so that's kind of answering my question was, do you think these incubus and succubus, do you think they are a discrete entity? Do you think they're their own thing? Like they existed before they met the person, they'll exist after they met, they have their own thoughts, they have their own life. Is that what you think these things are? Incubus and succubi?
I think that they're low-level entities. I'm not going to say, I can't say for sure, but I think that when you're at a very low point, a very vulnerable point, it's possible that you're either manifesting them yourself or drawing them to you. It could be one of either, I guess.
They sound really similar to shadow people. I want to say that they're, to me, it sounds like they are shadow people, except they have sexual intentions. That's the difference between them and a regular shadow person. But they sound the same. I mean, they act the same.
I don't think that they're ghosts of any sort. But they're definitely.
I think they're a being of some
entities.
kind. Yeah, an energy of some kind, maybe even.
Look,
but the mind has the ability to manifest what it desires and what it, So whatever you're looking or wanting to happen, it's like your wildest dreams are being fulfilled by these things. And like she said, it was the best sex she ever had,
I have an idea that I think, not all of them, but I think some of these shadow people, I really suspect some of them are just people or things that are like people from another dimension that have the ability or technology to come to our dimension. Here's a scenario. Let's say that let me make up some guy named Fred. Okay. Fred lives in Albuquerque. So Fred in Albuquerque, he develops the technology to go to another dimension where there's people there and they kind of look like humans. And what does he decide to do with this technology? He decides to go into people's houses in this other dimension and mess with them in the bedroom. And perhaps he spends all his time looking for men or women who are lonely. I think that's a
But that's
possible scenario.
astro travel, right, hey?
Well, that's the thing. That's why I say they either have the ability or the technology, because I think some paranormal things can be done just with meditation without a machine.
Mhm.
But I think they can also be done with a machine. It just depends how you want to go about it. It's just like the example I use about an electric eel. An electric eel can generate a whole lot of energy, enough to kill a man. Okay. But I could do that as well. But I need to use a machine. I have to actually use a machine to shock you, like a taser. So we're both doing the same thing, but I'm using technology and the eel is using its body. So that's what I think. I think beings can come to our dimension either by using their body, by using meditation, astral travel, or if they want to cheat, they could use a machine to do it. That's what I suspect is happening.
I think it could be a number of different ways, and all of what you just presented too.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know how that would explain what happened to us here, because we used to have a shadow person that was here and hung out in our hallway. We all saw it, including our cat would see it. And you just catch it out of the corner of your eye just for a second or so, and then it would be gone. Right. And I talked to a friend of mine who is a spiritual medium. She did a reading on this, and she discovered that the being thought that I was holding it prisoner, that I was like its warden. And she said, the next time you see it, just offer it love and light and explain to it that, I don't know why you feel this way, but I'm not holding you prisoner here. You're free to go. So I said, all right, and the thing really never did anything. It just left a creepy feeling in the house when it appeared, and it would appear often. And so the next time I saw it, I did exactly that. I told it, you're not being held prisoner here and you're free to go. And we haven't seen that thing in a little over 2 years now.
Okay.
So,
and with going on that, Damien, is it not possible that it remembered you from a different lifetime?
oh, I don't know about that. I never even gave any thought to that. But
and it's like I said, it still could remember you from a different lifetime, and when you maybe was dominating person in to them or whatever, or representative of like hold a higher ranking.
yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I've never really given any thought to that. But I mean,
and now that you
sure it's
released it,
possible.
you gave it permission to leave.
I think
See,
I think I could categorize your shadow, the shadow person you saw, Damien. It's another category of shadow people. Okay, so this one seems to me like the benign, sad shadow person. Some people have shadow people that they're benign because they're not really doing much. They look a little sad because they're just kind of like looking around. So I wonder if there's another explanation for this type of shadow person. I wonder if this shadow person is perhaps just stuck here. Perhaps they accidentally went into a portal. This is one explanation. They accidentally went into a portal in their dimension, and they ended up stuck in our dimension, and now they just can't get out. And so they're just kind of confused, kind of sad, kind of lonely. They're not really trying. They don't have a goal. They're not trying to hurt us. They're not trying to scare us. They're not trying to sleep with us. They're just kind of confused.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like a different category.
Yeah, I don't think that they're ghosts at all. I think that they're interdimensional beings, actually.
I think they're interdimensional being as well, because when I lived with my daughter for for a period of time, there was I was getting ready to go into doing meditation to go to sleep that night, and like 6 feet from at the end of my bed, which would be about 6 feet, there was like something I've never seen. Only I caught a picture of it on I got a picture of it similar on one of my writings, but it just looked like a white explosion, but it was only about the size of a smaller than a softball. And that's when I seen the black shadow being walk across it. I mean, the white part opened up and then it closed up, and that black shadow person just walked right across, never said or did anything, and it dissipated just really quickly. I've had a lot of dealings with shadow people, but that was the first time I ever seen a portal or something like that open up, which was pretty cool actually. But I'd never seen it before or since.
Wow.
The place where we live is haunted by a cat, a black cat, and I don't know if you have ever seen it, Ralph. Have you seen it?
The cat here?
Yeah.
Only out of the corner of my eye.
Yeah. I've seen it a few times. In fact, I just saw it the other night. What it likes to do, it likes to hang out in the studio here. And I'll be walking down the hallway and passing the studio, which is dark. And I've seen it sitting on the desk. And so I've turned on the light and I've seen the thing actually disappear. But it's a black cat with bright green eyes. But then it just disappears when it knows you're looking at it. And, one time it jettisoned out of the studio as I was walking down the hallway and about tripped me. And and it hissed, and Ralph and my wife were sitting in the living room and they heard the hiss. And I looked on the couch and I thought it was our own cat that had done this. And I looked on the couch out there, and the cat, our real cat, was sound asleep on the couch. And so, it's this, like I said, everywhere in Las Vegas is haunted by something. Viewers, we're going to get out of here soon, but I'm going to drop a link to the StreamYard. And if you have an experience you'd like to share about ghosts, chime in. So I just posted the link to it. So come on, come aboard. Let's talk.
Yeah, I've seen the cat out of the corner of my eye, like movements and stuff, and thinking that it's our cat. I felt it more than I've seen it, though. I felt it jump onto my bed. I felt it cats go between your legs and rub around your legs and stuff like that. I felt it do that and stuff, thinking it's our cat, and looking down and there's nothing there.
You can feel it walking on the bed.
Yeah. Feel it come up on the bed.
But
That's funny.
like I said, even our cat acknowledges this thing. And she'll be sitting out in the living room with my wife, and suddenly she'll sit up on her hind legs, staring directly down the hall, and she'll jet down the hall. And I've gone down there to see what she was investigating, and she's out there on her hind legs, batting at the air, and then rolling around like she's playing with the thing. So, yeah. Very interesting.
I've got my own black cat here, and he does the same thing with, because when I first moved in here, I knew that there's all kinds of things going on in this place. It used to be an assisted living home. I told my kids, I said, there you go. You wanted to put me in a damn nursing home. There you go. I'm already here. But my cat will, and I've seen it's a white cat that used to be here apparently. And my cat will chase it and play around with it, the same thing. And the other night, my cat's laying on the bed sleeping, and I could hear this cat sneeze or scratch at something. And I knew that it was there. But the animals stay around too. Just like people.
Yeah.
I think so.
I remember we had Rob Gutro on, and he's known as the pet psychic.
Yep.
And he does investigations into pet spirits. And it was, I thought that was one of our most interesting shows, actually, because I really liked what he had to say. But
Yeah.
you were talking about getting that weird phone call, Kimberly.
Yeah.
And my good friend Tom Baker, who has also been on the show, has been having this issue for about a year now. And he's getting repeated phone calls. And, you know, he'll answer the phone and there would be nothing there. And then somebody will, in a raspy voice, will say, hello, or something like that. You know, and he said at first it freaked him out, but now he's more intrigued by the whole thing. And I was just talking to him the other day, and apparently it's still going on. So,
well, the people on the other side, they will find a way of communicating with you. Especially, you know, and mostly it's through dreams because it's less evasive, less frightening to people. But I think for those that they know that can handle the communication, at least it's like a testing the waters. But for me, I mean, I was holding, I could actually see the cut cord. There was no way that this damn thing was connected to anything. There was no energy of electricity being given. And yet that phone rang 3 times.
Weird.
I thought it was pretty cool, but I knew it. I knew that it would.
One of the other things that happened in that basement apartment in Minnesota that I forgot to mention is one day I was home alone and I was watching the news and they were talking about the possible release of, I can't remember his name, the guy that shot John Lennon. And I said out loud, I said, you have got to be kidding me. And right next to my ear, I heard a gasp, like, so I think I scared the ghost.
Scared something. Yeah. Yeah. I really.
Chapman. It was Chapman.
Chapman.
I'm really into the idea that wherever we are, we're constantly surrounded by intelligences, shadow people, dead people that we can't see, or that most of us can't see or communicate. I also think I like the idea also that wherever you are, the sky is always full of UFOs, except they're purposely camouflaging themselves from us. But I like the idea that we're actually swarming wherever we are on this planet. We cannot avoid swarming ourselves by these invisible paranormal entities, and that only some of us have the ability to see them. Or, you know, if they want us to see them, they could allow that, but most of them don't want to. But
they can be
as a
caught
scientist,
on camera.
I think sometimes they can. I think they're really good at avoiding cameras. Well, what I was about to say, as a scientist, I would love to invent a device that would allow us to see them no matter what. That would be great. So,
well,
I mean,
I got that UFO on camera, and it was definitely not there, not visible.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, speaking of photos, one of the things that drives me nuts is, you know, I belong to these paranormal groups on Facebook, and people are always posting pictures of supposed ghosts. And what it really is, I think, at least 90% of them, it's just, what is it called? Pareidolia?
Pareidolia.
You know? Pareidolia. Thank you. And and it just drives me nuts. It's like, you know, if you look at the thing and just use some common sense, you can see that it's just that, and it's not really an entity. Now, there are some photos that I've seen that look pretty legit, but I'm almost betting that those are staged. You know, I think it's very difficult to get a picture of a ghost.
Right.
So
I think photography can be very useful in paranormal activity as far as UFOs and ghosts and cryptids. The problem is that you have to plan for it. Like, for me, it would be perfect if you had I would want the camera model. I would want to have all the settings the camera was set to, like the focal length, the aperture, all these different, the f-stop, there's all these different things. I would like to have all that information so that I could correctly analyze the photo. But unfortunately, a lot of times, if there is a real non-hoax paranormal picture, it's taken by accident. You know, nobody was planning on taking it. So they kind of just whip up the phone and then they post it and it gets distributed, but then you never get that information. You really need the context. You need to know when it happened, where it happened, and all the technical information. That's when it's useful. But I hardly ever see that information for any paranormal.
It's pretty rare. I mean, I think that those are probably the most legitimate photos. You know, that even goes for, you know, sightings of Bigfoot and that kind of thing. I saw this video once where this family was out and they were riding ATVs in the snow.
Oh.
And that's what they were filming.
Yes.
But up in the corner, and they said that they didn't realize this until they played it back, but up in the corner of the screen, up on a hilltop, you can see what appears to be a family of Bigfoot. You know, I think that's more legitimate than these people who are posting Bigfoot photos or videos or ghosts, you know. Then, I mean, because most of them just look staged, you know. And so, yeah, I don't mean to be so skeptical, but I think that I am skeptical about video and photo evidence. But, you know, the skeptics always want evidence, but this kind of evidence is shady at best, you know, and it's always out of focus.
It seems like
and
these
it
paranormal...
always makes it. Go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead, Kim.
I was just going to say, and it makes it more difficult, just like I've said before, for the real things to be understood and accepted because of the fake things that's been brought out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
that's true.
Absolutely.
It's a disservice. I was going to say, it looks like these paranormal entities. So I'm going to say cryptids, UFOs, shadow people, ghosts, everything. It seems like they're playing a really delicate game. Okay, they're playing a really delicate balancing game because it's pretty obvious to me that everything I just mentioned, Bigfoot, cryptids, UFOs, aliens, interdimensional travelers, shadow people, ghosts, it's pretty obvious that they don't want, for the most part, they want to remain secrets. So they're playing this really delicate balancing act where they have to remain hidden for the most part if they want to remain secret. Because if they overexpose themselves too much, then we're more likely to get the hard evidence. So it seems that for all of humanity, they've been playing this game. It's a balancing game. It's like, look, I don't want to overstep my bound. I know where the boundary is. And they're doing a really good job of it because what we really need is we need evidence. We have the tools to get the evidence, but we need them to present themselves to capture them. But they're not doing that because I think they're very smart. They're doing this balancing act. But it's like that happens in nature too. Like if there's like a deer and the deer doesn't want to be seen by the wolves because it doesn't want to get eaten by the wolves. So what does it do? It does this balancing act where it smells where the wolves are and it stays away. It doesn't get too close. If it were to get too close, it would get killed. So nature has this balancing act. And it seems like these paranormal entities are practicing this balancing act. They want to exist here. They want to remain secret. So they have to not expose themselves too much. And I think they've been doing it for all of humanity.
Did you ever see Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
Love that.
It's one of the first rules about the afterlife. You never provide proof to the living. It's just, that's the way it is. So anyway, folks, I think we're going to get out of here for the night. I don't think we have any takers for to come on the show. But thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell. And share it. Share it to your socials. And,
if everybody watching right now could share it on their social media, that'd be great. I think that would help the show a lot.
Absolutely. Most definitely. So anyway, we are going to get out of here for the night. So until next time, keep thinking and question everything.